Yo, what's up? It's week 13. It's time for bets against the spread. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving week. I guess it's still going on. We have Wednesday night football from week 12 still in the balance, but we're going to talk about the week 13 slate, which is less than inspiring. Nevertheless, opportunities to make money and to help us do that. Two of my favorites, Joe Holka, Matt LaMarca. Joe, how you doing today?
I'm good. Glad that Thanksgiving week is over, but I guess it's not completely over with everything going on. But it was a profitable week in DFS. Ran that back, and I guess with some Thanksgiving activities on the showdown slate, which I didn't win. My girlfriend win, which was great. I got her back last night, which was really good. Showdown is going really well.
Nice.
And that's scary, right? Any sort of like false sense of security this time of the year. There's plenty of time to give it all back. So let's try and not do that.
Maddie, how'd you do this past week?
Yeah, I also had a nice Thanksgiving slate. Not so great on Sunday, but yeah, we're doing well. Excited for a little Wednesday afternoon football.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're out there in Pacific Coast time, you got a nice 12:40 p.m. football game.
Let's do it. It's like watching European soccer. By the way, I guess I'm the only mark on the panel today. I had a terrible week. So that's what you get for betting the Broncos before all of their quarterbacks go on the COVID list. You moron, Kurtenbach. We're going to skip Wednesday night football, which
Wednesday
is now a
afternoon
thing.
Football.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Wednesday afternoon football, Wednesday night football in London. And just go straight ahead to I mean, what is this?
Really, where do we start?
We're gonna go. Let's talk about the Lions and the Bears because we're masochists. I don't know. No, what? No. Let's start with the decent game. Let's start right. Let's do this thing a-okay, at least to get off the slate here. Cleveland, Tennessee. Tennessee is opening as 5.5-point favorites at home. It is a big fat total of 54 points. We're gonna start with you, Matt LaMarca. Did Tennessee show you enough in that onslaught to make you buy in long term?
I'm still lukewarm on Tennessee. The bigger thing is just I cannot fade the Browns hard enough. They have got to be the worst 8-3 team that I can remember. I mean, I feel like somebody says that about one team probably every year.
Every year. Yeah, last year was the Packers.
This team is gross. Their Pythagorean win expectation is 5-6.
Oh,
they've outperformed their Pythagorean win total by 3 wins through 11 games. They've been outscored by roughly 30 points. Mm-hmm. They haven't played a good team since like November, it feels like, or sorry, it is November.
You realize that was yesterday?
They haven't played a good team since September. They've played in 3 hurricane games. This team stinks. And, you know, like, so when I go through these games, I try to start by going, what would I make this spread?
Right.
So I had Tennessee as 7-point favorites. And the line opened up at like 3.5 and just was immediately bet up to 5.5. I still think it's too low. Okay. It wouldn't shock me if it increased as the week went on here. But yeah, to me, we need to be fading Cleveland every opportunity we can get.
Talk me through the 7 points from the Tennessee perspective. Okay, we're fading Cleveland. I don't know how much just a strong fade wind is worth to you, Matt LaMarca, but obviously it takes 2 to tango. Talk me through the Tennessee side of that equation to get to 7.
I think Tennessee is a good but not great team. You know, they certainly, when they're playing well offensively, they look good. You know, last week against the Colts team that, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for. They really hammered them. You know, they were running the ball with Derrick Henry. AJ Brown continued to make big plays. This team ranks 3rd in overall DVOA for whatever that's worth. You know, DVOA can be a little bit misleading at times, but this team is pretty good. You know, and now that, again, this is more of a Cleveland thing than it is a Tennessee thing for me, but I figured with the home field advantage, I would have them solidly favored over Cleveland on a neutral field. So I pumped it up to 7. Not an exact science. It's not like I was using,
if it was,
you know, exact power ratings and things like that as if I was really creating the spread. I just kind of do it rough in my head.
Yeah.
And I got 7.
Well, listen, you're more right than wrong most of the time. Joe, does Myles Garrett coming back? He's expected back for this game. Does that change the calculus at all for you?
This is a weird one, right? I think that does change a little bit, but both of these teams just run the ball so well. I guess one of the things, like last week, we see Baker Mayfield in the Millionaire Maker winner team on DraftKings, and I think that maybe it's gone a little bit too far just because they've played in so many crazy weather games, it feels like recently, in terms of them being like so far skewed towards the run. But I think that the under is really interesting here just because I think there's not going to be as many plays as most people think with both these offenses still scoring points usually, but I think there's going to be so much running. I mean, it's December, right? Derrick Henry is just going to continue to get his 25 touches plus. It's been fun to be on the right side of Derrick Henry like frequently this year. Like this is new for me. Had a lot of Derrick Henry and Hines mini stacks last week, which was really good until Tyreek Hill ruined my life. But I do think that this game is interesting. I'm with LaMarca. I like the Tennessee side a lot, obviously early in the week, but Tennessee, 89% of the money so far, only 58% of the bets. So I think I'm on the Tennessee side of this one. I agree. Cleveland, probably a little bit overrated, but I don't know if this like screams like shootout by any means.
Yeah, the 54, it looks heavy. I would probably play the under, but I'll go with Matty. If he says that it should be up by 7 just off of his gut, I'll take the extra, 1.5 here that's sitting around for the taking. So official decree from Line Movement, take Tennessee and take the under. Let's go to Las Vegas and the Jets. Wow, this is a sad football game. The Raiders open as 7.5-point favorites on FanDuel, 8-point favorites in some other places. It's still hanging out there. We're looking at a 47.5-point total. Joe, can we bet the Jets here at a touchdown and a hook? Can we bet the Jets with the Raiders coming off of an abysmal performance against Atlanta?
Man, Sam Darnold's terrible. Like I guess I forgot how bad he is, and then you see him go out there, and like Joe Flacco is like clearly the guy we want from a fantasy perspective back there. From a betting perspective, I don't know. Like we've bet the Jets a couple times and been rewarded for it in some of these really large spread situations. Like I understand how bad Derek Carr looked last week, but before that, he's looked pretty good from an efficiency standpoint, like a real football standpoint. So I don't know, this Adam Gase thing, like I always default to that. Like why do I want to put hard-earned American or Canadian dollars behind anything resembling the Jets team? I would just prefer to be on like the much better team here, and that's the Raiders for sure.
I imagine you're in the same spot there, Matty.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Sam Darnold a little bit more.
Please.
There are still legitimately people out there that believe that this guy is a good quarterback who just ended up in a terrible situation. No. And it is a bad situation. Don't get me wrong. The Jets stink. Yeah. But he has been so markedly worse than Joe Flacco in every quarterback. And Joe Flacco is not, this backup quarterback that we all love, right? Joe Flacco,
he also sucks. Yeah.
Sam Darnold is trash. There's no way around it at this point. If he goes somewhere else and has this Ryan Tannehill resurgence, so be it. But he is never going to be good on the Jets.
So you're not betting him?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. He has 3 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this year, and he's played in 7 games. The guy has 3 passing touchdowns in 7 games in 2020. I didn't even think that was possible.
Well, it is if you're like the practice squad quarterback for the Broncos and they keep having to trot you out there.
I think Hinton could get 3 if we gave him 7 games.
That's just rude. It's just rude. I started it, but you didn't have to take it that far. Okay, we're not betting the Jets. That's fine. How do we feel about the total? 47.5. Is that too rich for anybody's blood? I mean, I don't know if the Jets are going to be able to put 14 on the board in this game, even against the Raiders defense, which stinks, by the way. Like, I do think we have to at least take that into account. I understand that the Jets stink, but the Raiders defense is some sort of horrible too. Like, this might be an extremely movable object against an extremely movable force.
It takes 2, Dieter. It takes 2. So we need something on both sides of the ball here. Go ahead, LaMarca.
Yeah. If Flacco was playing in this game, I think we could make a reasonable case for the over, but he's not. It's going to be Darnold. And the Jets have scored 13 points or fewer in 5 of his 7 starts.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. We just have to go through the exercise. I'm sorry for wasting everybody's time. We're taking the Raiders and we're avoiding the total. We're just avoiding the total, maybe an under, but we're probably avoiding it because the Raiders might put 40 on the board just for vengeance purposes. Obviously, the Jets didn't do anything to them, but they got to get right. All right. Mike Glennon looked pretty good as the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, that is all relative. Kirk Cousins looked pretty good last week as the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. He's been there for a minute. It's a 9.5 point spread, which feels a bit aggressive, and a 50.5 point total. We start with you, Matt LaMarca. Are the Jags going to cover this line?
I'm not so sure. I was much more bullish on the Jags last week when they were facing Cleveland and they were getting 8 or 7 points in that spot because the Browns didn't match up with what the Jags really struggle at, which is pass defense. Minnesota, they definitely prefer to run the ball, but they can pass when they have to. They have 2 excellent wide receivers. I mean, I'm assuming Thielen will be back, but we don't really know for sure. So I'm a little bit less bullish on Jacksonville this week, but I still think that if they have Glennon at quarterback or Minshew, that this is a touch high. Okay. As long as it's not Luton, I think Jacksonville probably deserves to be in the ballpark of like a touchdown underdog as opposed to a touchdown and a field goal.
Jake Luton doesn't deserve that, man. He doesn't deserve that slander. He's going out there and trying his best, just like we are here. So you're right that it wouldn't matter, but come on, let's leave the poor guy alone. He's been punished enough. Joe, how do you feel about Minnesota? Took a lot to get that win last week. I don't know. It's hard to feel inspired by this squad.
Weird game overall, like back-to-back defensive fumble recoveries for touchdowns last week against Minnesota. So I can't see something like that happening again. I agree with LaMarca that, yes, they would prefer to run. But I still think that Kirk Cousins, like if he gets anywhere near the volume, even like half the type of, I guess to like the midpoint of the league of like passing volume. I mean, he's been so efficient. He's got some absolute difference makers like Justin Jefferson. Hopefully we get Thielen back. So I think that they can really beat Jacksonville however they want in this spot. So Jacksonville is a defense that's allowed the 6th most passing touchdowns, 4th most passing yards per game. So I don't know. I can't really see a scenario where I wouldn't be where I wouldn't want to be on the Vikings side of this one. I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be like a shootout by any means. So I think maybe I'd be on the under in this one as well. But I do like the Vikings side.
Okay, I can see it. I think it's probably a stay away. I think that total's pretty high, all things considered. I know that it's going to be indoors, but that total feels aggressive. The Jaguars, as is pointed out in the chat by Steven, like always have a way to just stick around. They're great at backdoor covers, but the backdoor has been left open for like 3 straight quarters, and they slowly eke their way in. This game looks messy. I just feel like there's no real winning with this one. Even if you're on Minnesota, you're going to be sweating it out for no good reason. So unless you're into that sort of thing, I would avoid the sauna and stay away from this game in general. Indianapolis and Houston should be a fascinating one. 52.5 point total, 3 points to the Colts, as you would expect, but it's in Houston. Joe, I don't know. Is Houston competent enough to make this game interesting? Are the Colts broken from whatever happened with Tennessee? Like, there's a lot in the balance here. It does not feel very straightforward when it really should be. And that 3 points, I don't know. That could look really stupid, or you might want every single one of them at the end of it. I wish I had some stance for you to go off of here, but if you can shed some light on the situation, I'd sure appreciate it.
I think this Will Fuller loss is actually a really big deal for this offense in general, just like moving the ball down the field. Like, you need a guy like that you have to respect deep that can actually make things happen after the catch as well. I don't really love this matchup for Deshaun Watson in general. I think that this Texans front might be able, the other side of the Colts front has been so elite this year that they might be able to kind of contain Deshaun Watson a little bit in terms of his scrambling and letting some of those deeper routes kind of progress down the field. So I definitely like the Colts side of this one. I think this line, I'm not saying that it should have necessarily moved significantly with Will Fuller, but I do have some concerns about the Texans moving the ball without like one of their best players for sure.
It opened at 3.5. It's down to 3 now.
Yeah.
So it's going the opposite direction.
Weird.
But I'm with you. I guess maybe the market knows how to account for a lack of Will Fuller after all of those games of not having Will Fuller. That's all I can say. Maddie, what do you make of this game? It's a big total and a small line, and it's two teams that are incredibly volatile. I mean, this is where you should be making your hay, right?
Yeah, I think, again, just from a narrative perspective, I like Indy here. I think that the growing narrative is that Houston is actually a pretty good football team. They were just blessed with a brutal schedule to start the year. I mean, they, again, and they did. They opened the year with the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Steelers in 3 straight games.
Yeah.
And since then, they've been better. They've also been much better since firing Bill O'Brien. But I agree with Holka that the Will Fuller injury really matters. Yes, the Texans are quite accustomed to playing without him, but they also used to have that DeAndre Hopkins fellow who was pretty good.
Heard about him.
So now they have to play without both of their top 2 receivers from last year. And Indy, I really have no long-term concerns with the Colts, right? The one big question mark with them was their offense, and their offense has quietly gotten it rolling recently. I get that they gave up 45 last week to the Titans, but the Titans have those weeks where they just put it on you and you don't really understand where it comes from, but they do it, and I don't have the same concerns that Houston is going to do that without Will Fuller. And I think that Indy should be able to get to that, 30-point barrier in this contest because that's what they've been doing recently. And Houston's defense is not good. I don't care that they looked okay against the Lions playing without every viable skill player on their roster last week. So I like Indy. I think that this is probably not enough points for them to be laying, even with this game on the road.
We don't know if they'll be back, but likelihood is high that they will. 2 guys that make a big impact for this Colts team, Jonathan Taylor, but more so, and we don't talk about defense all that much, but DeForest Buckner, who kind of holds everything together in the middle of the defensive line for them. I think it was pretty clear that they were missing DeForest Buckner against the Titans. And obviously we're not dealing with an equivalent team in Houston, but listen, having better run defense is going to work against anybody.
Is it a hot take that I don't care at all if Jonathan Taylor plays?
It's not. Given the state of the Colts running game, I guess it'd be better to have more. Do you think that it's actually counterproductive to have that many dudes in the backfield, or where do you stand?
It just seems like every time Taylor's on the field, the opposing defense knows that they're going to try to run the ball. And when you have a guy like Nyheim Hines back there, it's a little bit more deceptive.
Yeah.
And Taylor hasn't impressed me. The advanced numbers, the guys that love Taylor will tell you that it's because he's running the 3rd highest percentage of his runs into 8-man boxes and things like that. But, again, that stems from the fact that teams know that they're going to run the ball when he's on the field. I prefer their offense with Hines out there.
That's called a Chargers problem. And how many years did we have to watch Austin Eckler only get garbage time and 3rd downs before they realized maybe we should have this guy on the field at all times? I mean, that's just bad coaching by Frank Reich. I'm with you. I wouldn't mind seeing him at least for limited snaps. I agree with you that Hines is the best guy, but it's not bad to have a spell back every now and again. Depends on how he's used. I feel like this 3 could look pretty stupid. I like the under, and I like the Colts -3. I don't like this next game. I don't like it one bit. I want to stay away from it. I'm just establishing that now. We have an 11.5-point spread with a 42-point total. We're talking about the Bengals, and we're talking about the Dolphins. Tua's probably back. It looks like Tua's back for this game. I don't know if that means anything. You got Allen at quarterback for the Bengals. Joe, are you in on this one? Because I could not be further out.
It's kind of scary overall. Had a lot of Ryan Fitzpatrick last week, so we'll see. Like this Tua injury just kind of changes. Like I don't know if you can really make this bet until you know what's going to happen at quarterback. This Bengals team without Joe Burrow, I mean, say what you want about, like, I guess their progress throughout the year, but they are nowhere near the same team. They're not good on defense. This Miami defense is just going to have their way with that offensive line overall. So it is a pretty large spread overall. Seems scary though. Like, LaMarca, is this like not, I guess, to the extent of a Jets situation where you just take the points here? I don't know. This seems like a scary bet, even if you were to take Miami though.
Right.
Yeah, clearly you didn't watch them only lose by 2 points to a division leader last week, Joe.
I did not watch that game.
Confirmed. That was such a hot mess.
Yeah, the Giants, yes, they only won that game by 2 points, and I'm obviously joking about the whole division leader thing, even though they are leading the NFC East at this point. But they outgained the Bengals by more than 200 yards. They didn't have Daniel Jones for a solid portion of that game. That game could have been a much bigger blowout than it ended up being. If Ryan Fitzpatrick gets another start this week, I have no problem laying the 11 with the Dolphins. Their defense is quite capable of keeping a bad offense off the board, as I've seen in 2 games versus the Jets. They've held the Jets to 3 total points in 2 matchups.
It's the Jets.
Are you saying that the Brandon Allen-led Bengals are better?
Yes.
Well, maybe, but they're equivalent.
Yes, they are equivalent if you have very broad classes. Like, obviously, they're a bad team. No one's questioning that the Brandon Allen.
They put up 150 yards of total offense last week.
How many did the Jets put up? 5?
I would say more than 150, but
yeah. Well, listen, anytime you go up against a juggernaut like the Giants, you gotta.
We're splitting hairs here. It doesn't matter. It's a bad team, and Miami's defense has been good. Brian Flores, I still love that guy.
You're still in.
So we'll see. Tua to me just hasn't. I don't want to lay the points with Tua because he hasn't shown me enough at this point. But if we get another Fitzpatrick game, like it a lot, actually.
Okay, and I imagine that you would very much like the over on 42. Should that come to pass as well?
No, again, I don't see
just because you're so out on the Bengals
up their end of the bargain.
Yep. Okay. I think they might get 200 total yards of offense this upcoming week, and after that, I mean, just look out. Sky's the limit. Okay, the game that I hinted at earlier because I'm just so excited to talk about it, you guys. Detroit and Chicago. Chicago's a 3-point favorite at home with a 44-point total in this game. Disrespect to Matt Stafford. Just disrespect. 44-point total. What are we doing here? Matt LaMarca?
Well, I mean, again, this one's going to come down to the practice. How the Lions' health shapes up. I mean, they need some skill guys back. I mean, we were talking about, Spiro Agnew, former vice presidential candidate, getting snaps in the slot for the Lions last week. A lot of Marvin Hall, a lot of Marvin Jones, who is done.
Love the Marvins.
Too many Marvins. Only one Marvin on the field at a time, please.
Those are the rules.
And it does feel like this is an opportunity to buy low on the Bears. I mean, this line is saying that they're equivalent to the Lions on a neutral field.
They suck pretty hard, man. I mean, they're pretty bad.
They're not good. But come on, we're going to let a game against Aaron Rodgers really sway our opinion. Chicago is a mediocre football team. Detroit's a bad football team. So I will probably be on the Bengals, or I'm sorry, the Bears side here.
Yeah, nice Freudian slip.
I will probably be on the Bears side here, unless they get like all the skill guys back for the Lions. If Kenny Galladay's back, if Danny Amendola is back, DeAndre Swift is back, then we reevaluate. But the way things stand now, I like Chicago.
Joe, I'm right that the Bears absolutely stink. Right,
the Bears aren't good. That's for. I mean, I don't think either of these teams are good. Clearly. This is weird because I think anytime you fire your coach, sometimes like at least it doesn't mean that they're going to be like a better team going forward. Like, but I do think like the next game, the game after that, sometimes they're a little bit excited in general to play. It's like new life into a team. So I do think that those kind of narratives make some sense. Detroit, 92% of the money very early on, only 64% of the bets. So there's that. I think that the clear play is the under here though, right? I mean, that's the only one I'm really interested in right now.
When you say the under, I mean, that's 44. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
divisional.
I don't think either team's going to break 15 points, if I'm being honest.
Whoo! Okay. Well, I guess this isn't
bad.
your favorite DFS matchup of the week.
Yeah.
Well, speaking
What
of
do you got?
DFS, do we
Sure.
need to reference Mitch Trubisky's elite statistics against this Detroit unit?
Tell me about it.
He's gone for at least like 25 DraftKings points in 3 straight against Detroit, I want to say. His first game of the season this year was against Detroit, 242 yards with 3 touchdowns through the air. Bears won that game by 4 on the road. And then I could dig up his stats from last year if you'd like, but just take my word for it. The Bears have been Trubisky has fared well against the Lions.
Well, you know why that is, right? It's because the Lions play a ton of man coverage, and Trubisky literally can't play against zone coverage. So, like, it's like by default, it's like a better spot for him overall. He can run a little bit as well. What's his price on DraftKings, LaMarca? I haven't even looked at it yet, but that sounds interesting.
Good question. He's 5,400.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Oh, God. Is it Trubisky week? This is the worst.
It's Trubisky week.
This is the worst.
And I'm taking the over.
On the bandwagon.
I take back my 15 points on both sides of this game comment.
Go. Matt LaMarca bringing the stats and bringing us around. Let's talk about a good game. Maybe. I don't know. Jared Goff looked all sorts of terrible against the 49ers. Kyler Murray's shoulder is all sorts of injured and he doesn't want to run. So maybe this game just stinks and we don't know it yet. But Rams and Cardinals, Rams are 3-point favorites on the road at Arizona with the 48.5 point total on this game. Maddie, how big of a deal is it that, Jared Goff just kind of secret sucks, and that more so that Kyler Murray doesn't seem to want to run to protect that shoulder?
Yeah, it's a big deal. And is Jared Goff sucking a secret? I don't even
No. But every now and again, he makes you forget.
That is true. He does randomly have those big games. Yeah, Kyler, as much as we love Kyler, right? Like, he's not a guy that's going to pick you apart with his arm in the pocket. Right. We saw that last year. He didn't really want to be a runner in 2019. And the Cardinals weren't a great team. I mean, and this isn't a knock, by the way. You know, like, his legs are a weapon. Take a great weapon away from any quarterback, and yeah, the results are going to suffer. So I am nervous about the Murray injury thing. I think that maybe they would like to get him some rest, but they're kind of in a situation where they can't do that. They need to fight for every win. The Patriots, dreadful defense. They were like 31st in defensive DVOA heading into last week's game. So the fact that they only put up 17 points in that contest after putting up 21 against the Seahawks, it's a bit of a red flag for me.
Agreed. Joe, would you like to commiserate with us here?
I'd love to be on the Cardinals side because you guys know I would love to always be on the Cardinals side. But yeah, this injury is concerning for Kyler Murray for sure. I think the bigger concern is that both these teams really need this game, and the Rams defense is just absolutely rolling right now. So they're going to be able to get a ton of pressure in this spot. Aaron Donald has just been a true difference maker on like legitimately every play. Even when he's like not getting pressures, he's like disrupting almost everything that's happening on the field. So anytime you have a guy like that against a quarterback that's trying to protect himself a little bit more, not a great spot overall. He's really expensive in DFS too, which we'll get to earlier in the week. But this pass rush has been something else. 6th most sacks in the NFL, but they are just not giving up anything. So I do like the Rams to kind of sneak this one out a little bit, but I don't know if I can really get behind them covering. I don't know. It's close. I want to root for my Cardinals here, but it's a really tough spot.
Well, here's all you need to know. This game opened, and I don't know when the exact opening was. I'm sure Maddie can enlighten me, but this opened as Arizona as a 1-point favorite at home, and it has flipped to be the Rams -3 after the Rams just laid a big old turd in the middle of SoFi Stadium. So that tells you a lot about that Kyler Murray injury and how people are feeling about him. And if they don't have him, as much talent as they have put around him on the offensive side, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And we're finding out week in, week out that Cliff Kingsbury might not be as well-rounded a coach as maybe some people made him out to be. Not great with the special teams there, Cliff. Really bad, in fact. So This is a stay away for now. Maybe let the market shake it out a little bit, and then we'll figure it out. I think if anything, you want to lay down something early, a line that might move. This total might move, and you might not be able to get 58.5 in a couple of days. So maybe get in on the under now, get yourself some free points in the process. You agree with that, Maddie?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and talk about the line thing because I do
Yeah.
think that this is important.
Yeah.
The -1 for the Cardinals is what they call the advanced spread,
Right.
meaning they put it out before the teams played their last game.
Right.
It's a good indicator of what the sports books are thinking at that current moment in time. So I like to look at those because they do reflect, like any sort of change in mentality that may be related to just one game.
Right.
The real opening line I would say here was Rams -1.5. That's
Even
what
so,
this number
still move.
opened up at
Yeah.
when they had finished their last games
Sunday
and the
night,
betting
yeah.
activity on this week started. So we've still seen some pretty heavy Rams movement off the actual opening number of 1.5. Jumping from 1.5 to 3, it doesn't feel like a huge move. It's just a 1.5, but we always talk about how 3 is, a key number in NFL betting. So it does matter.
Absolutely. With you 100%. All right. Seattle, who just played. Oh, God, that game was rough to watch. And they get the Giants at home now. It looks like Colt McCoy is going to be the starting quarterback for the Giants. I'm only seeing one line out here. Well, there's a couple. It looks like Seattle's a touchdown favorite with a 48.5 point total, which feels aggressive. Joe, is it aggressive, or are you in on the Giants looking good with Colt McCoy under center?
I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Daniel Jones, but I still think he's a significant upgrade versus Colt McCoy, who's just going to kind of dink and dunk up the field a little bit. But that Seahawks defense could probably make anyone look good back there. So there's that. I do like that.
Not Carson Wentz.
Yeah, right. I don't know. LaMarca, everyone's going to want to talk about how DK Metcalf's going to get shut down again, which I would assume doesn't happen. Like, I don't care if it's James Bradbury back there. Did you see this guy last night? Guy is an absolute baller. I know he dropped one in the end zone, but guy had not quite Tyreek Hill number, but he had over 100 yards in like the first quarter. It was insane. The guy's just an absolute man-child. Actually, we're getting off the rails, but I think this is interesting. Did you guys see that one of the defensive coaches for Detroit said something about Megatron? He was basically just like, I've coached Megatron. You're not quite there yet. And then literally Metcalf just completely takes offense to this and it just starts going crazy. So if a guy can literally just turn it on like that, I don't know, man. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, but I love DK Metcalf.
Well, it was Jim Schwartz, who used to be the head coach of the Lions, right?
Yeah.
I got that right? Yeah. And he made the comment, then Megatron made it out to nothing. He took it personally, as Michael Jordan would say. I mean, it's Metcalf's a dude, and apparently has to drop a touchdown every single week. Like, that's his thing. He has to drop one. Just that way he knows he's really alive. But the fact is, the dude keeps getting opportunities. Russell will never stop going deep to him. And that was an interesting spot last night where, Seattle's going to Philadelphia. I don't like teams that have to travel far distances to play night games. Like, I just don't like guys sitting in hotels all day. I made good money off of that in college football. Like the Saturday night game, like, where have the kids been all day just sitting around in their hotels doing nothing? Like, that's just bad energy, bad juju. Never like betting on those kids. Don't like doing it at the NFL level now. And so I probably don't like the Giants here on just that principle alone. I know they're playing in the afternoon, but that's just a long distance. I don't like coast to coast trips. DK Metcalf's going to get his. Russell Wilson's going to get his. But man, this game's sucky. This game, I don't want to have any action on this game because I don't want to be sad all afternoon.
If you don't want to be sad, just take Seattle right now.
Yeah,
I can't imagine
why right now. Why can't I wait?
Once it becomes confirmed that Daniel Jones is not going to play, this line is going to the moon.
How is it not confirmed yet? Everyone immediately said that it was a couple week injury for Daniel Jones.
I agree, but I'm looking at these. If this number 7 line is true, that's a dreadful line. It's a dreadful line. With
what would you take
quarterback?
What would you take it to?
10.5 maybe. I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is great, but he's at least frisky. Colt McCoy is just a corpse of a quarterback.
He's not
you
good.
Put him out there when you don't care.
What does it say that he was the backup all along? Like
that the Giants don't care.
Yeah. But the irony is, like, what's a high draft pick going to do for them besides make them a little less sucky?
It resets their clock, at least, you know.
No, at quarterback, I mean, they're going to stick with Jones.
I agree.
So how's the clock reset if you draft another defensive tackle?
Maybe you get Aaron Donald. I don't know. Listen,
yeah,
the Giants are in first place right now. We're talking about them like they're tanking. They're not tanking. They have
they're riding it's a very fine line between tanking and being in first place in the NFC East. If they drop one game back, they suddenly have a top 5 pick. It's wild.
LaMarca's brought that up twice now, that the Giants are leading that division like they're even a winning team right now. Are you kidding me?
It matters. By the way, I would say if you want to go for a little bit of a fun parlay, just do a 4-team money line NL or NFC East. Everybody loses parlay. You've got the Giants at Seattle,
right?
Philly at Green Bay.
Okay, 9.5-point spread.
Dallas at Baltimore.
Where's Dallas at Baltimore? I don't have a line on that
Monday night triple header.
What do you have?
Washington at Pittsburgh.
Washington at Pittsburgh, you can get 10 points for the football team.
There's no way that any of those teams are winning those games.
I don't know. They might winning, no, but covering perhaps.
Well, that's what I'm saying. 4-team money line.
Well, you have to put down 100 to make 20 off that.
Nah, I bet you get even money on that.
You can get even money, and all that has to happen is 4 teams have to do the thing that you expect them to do in the NFL.
It's harder than it seems, Dieter.
Okay. That's why I'm saying I'm not betting that. When the Washington football team just comes out here and beats the Steelers, who's to say? Who's to say that Dallas won't win? Who will even be the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens at that point? Because it might not be RG3. I mean, I agree with you that the NFC East is garbage. What I'm saying is I don't want to have money on any of these teams in any way, shape, or form, even to lose. I just don't want the negative energy flowing into me. That's all they push out. So let's stop talking about this game, for the love of God. And let's talk. Oh, come on. It doesn't get any better. New England and the Chargers. It is even money in some places. You can get 1 point here, 1 point there. I ask you, Joel Holka, if you had to put down some money on New England and the Chargers in Los Angeles, where would you put it? By the way, the total is about 47.
Yeah, I kind of like this game a little bit. I think that the Chargers are still an interesting team overall. I like that it's just so close. Like, Patriots are going to have to travel cross country again. I guess they still have like limited playoff hopes, believe it or not, which is kind of crazy. Cam Newton, just a totally different type of game they're trying to. But I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, them finding their identity a little bit in the run game. Keeping Justin Herbert off the field is something that I think makes a ton of sense overall. I do think that, like, the fact that Austin Eckler is back, they definitely showed a different wrinkle that this offense for the Chargers hasn't shown before. But I think that getting in, I don't know. Like, I guess let me ask LaMarca this, because he's more of like the Jets Patriots. I guess that's your focus is on both of those teams a lot more than it is on me.
What a terrible focus.
So, like, do you think that this Patriots team, like, do we want to be early on them? You know what I mean? I guess I think they've looked okay, but it's hard for me. This game is hard for me.
Right.
Yeah, the Patriots, I feel like this year they're winning the games when the other team doesn't play up to expectations. So it's all about what you think the Chargers are going to do here. Like, if you think the Chargers play a bad game, and Lord knows they have a coaching disadvantage.
Unbelievable.
I mean, Anthony Lynn with just a master class on how to get fired in the NFL last week.
And yet they haven't done it. I mean, we've been saying this, Matt, for the last 6 weeks. We've been saying it for years, but the last 6 weeks have been glaring. And yet, like, I feel like he got a negative vote of, like, somehow he has a stronger position on this job now than he ever had before. What are we doing? They ran
at the end of the year
pass protection on a quarterback sneak. Like, what are we doing?
At the end of the year, he's done. So don't worry, Dieter. Yeah, I think that the Patriots are probably the correct side here just because of that coaching mismatch, but if the Chargers play their best game, I don't think New England can keep up. The thing is,
Yeah.
I don't know if we've even seen the Chargers play their best game all year. Their best game is just a theoretical construct that we talk about from time to time because they can jump out to these leads and then they
These
just give
myths.
everything up.
I think if
Yeah.
it stays close, though, like we've seen this Chargers team just get eviscerated on the ground. And like in theory, if the Patriots do want to do that, I mean, they have the fourth most rushing yards in the league right now. Chargers have allowed double-digit touchdowns on the ground. So I think that I think I'm with you. The side for me is the Patriots. This game could I think it has a large range of outcomes on like how the game script could go, though. So I could see them just running it a ton and having a lot of success. But it's weird. I feel like Herbert can like charge these games up into being like higher paced at times. And I think the best thing for Herbert long term is that this team is just not good. So hopefully they just get a decent draft pick. We saw it with the Cardinals. Get Kyler Murray can completely change your franchise, but they need to be like kind of bad for a couple of years to put the right pieces around them.
You got Joey Bosa back for the Chargers last week. It does help their defense significantly to have that guy coming off the edge. I think he had 3 sacks in that game. There's something to that where you don't have receivers as much as we want to talk up some of these Patriots receivers because they've been surprises and frankly they've been poorly priced in DFS, so we get a lot of buzz around them. They don't separate. Like they just don't separate. So Cam needs time in the pocket to deliver. They're not going to run that option stuff that they've been running in and out. I mean, they just can't do it every down and expect Cam to live. So maybe they're looking for Jared Stidham time, but I'm feeling the Chargers here to bounce back. I think it was a tough spot for them last week having to fly to Buffalo. Again, I don't like cross country flights. Still, Anthony Lynn really sucks at this, and it's hard for me to ever put down money on it. I guess we're throwing even money out there, and we're making the argument that New England would be a better team on a neutral field. That doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with you, Matt.
You might be onto something here. I mean, the Patriots got outgained by the Cardinals by more than 100 yards.
Right.
And they lost the turnover battle in that game.
Yeah, what the hell happened in that? I mean,
seriously, what
Anthony Lynn happened. Anthony Lynn happened. And by the way, he shows up to this next game too. So like, I'm sorry, you're talking about the past. Sorry. I have no idea what happened. I mean, that in the Cardinals game, that game was a hot mess. It was an absolute hot mess. And you're right. There's no rhyme or reason as to what the hell happened between the Cardinals and the Patriots, other than I guess Arizona had to travel far. Again, I'm making a lot out of this travel thing, but who knows? Holiday week, something like that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about. Oh no, come on. Anyone want to say something nice about Green Bay before I go on a rant about Carson Wentz?
Dude, I haven't watched much Carson Wentz this year, but that was embarrassing last night. Like, I don't even know what to say. What happened? Like, is there something going on that I didn't know about? I didn't realize it was legit that bad. I understand the offensive line. I guess assumed it was the offensive line all year, but he can't even make a throw when he has time right now. So go ahead. I don't think there's anything to say about this game besides that rant.
He had
I'm in the
time.
true Festivus spirit because I have grievances that I'd like to air about both of these teams.
Bring it on.
One, Philadelphia. First off, I guess this is more towards Rappaport. We get this report that Jalen Hurts is going to play more. I make a whole big deal out of it. I talk about it in my betting preview, in my DFS preview. I was on a DraftKings stream talking about it. And then the guy plays 2 snaps and Doug Peterson calls him a gimmick change of pace quarterback. What the hell happened?
Dude, I'm off all news, man. I feel like I just get buried by it. You're better off just taking the lower ownership and just not caring.
Seriously. Right. The move was just Wentz in the captain spot. I guess technically Metcalf in the captain spot, but Wentz in your lineup. 2. Green Bay is great. I love Green Bay. Imagine how good this team would be if they used their first and second round picks on something other than a backup quarterback and a 4th string running back.
Can we talk about the wide receivers they could have next to Devontae Adams? It's just absolutely insane.
Marquise Valdez-Scantling isn't doing it for you there, Joe.
Dude, I can't even talk about it. How this team could win the Super Bowl legitimately if they had like a second difference maker.
No,
on that
no,
offense. Their offense is that
I don't. Well, their defense is so susceptible to just being punched in the mouth that I don't think that they can win the NFC.
Their division's terrible. Like I don't even think the NFC is very good. I think they would have been a contender if they had one more difference maker on that offense. I do truly believe that.
They would have. I think this still might happen.
Yeah.
They go to the Super Bowl and get absolutely smacked down, like Rams Patriots level smackdown, like embarrassment, mess you up for 3 years level smackdown. The same way that you could argue. I mean, and by the way, that would be 3 straight Gary Kubiak disciples that would go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. Rams, 49ers, and then Packers this year, and all 3 of them would get smacked down when the going got tough. So there's something to be said for that. Maybe that system doesn't work when they go. Maybe you just need Patrick Mahomes. Nevertheless, go ahead, Matt. Sorry, I'm going to hold back on Carson Wentz for another minute here. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like you've forgotten the past couple of Super Bowls. I mean, the 49ers did not get smacked down. The Rams did not get smacked down.
The Rams didn't get smacked down?
They lost by like a touchdown.
They had scored 3 points.
So?
They got absolutely punched in the mouth for 4 straight quarters. They scored 3 points with the best offense in football.
All right.
I'll give
they were getting hammered.
I'll give you the Super Bowl thing on the 49ers. I'll give you some of that. And then somewhere in the middle of the third quarter, and the 49ers were absolutely smacking around the Chiefs. They had the better roster in that game. And then somewhere around midway of the third quarter, Patrick Mahomes just decided to do crazy Patrick Mahomes shit. And Chris Jones just decided, I'm taking over this game. And Jimmy Garoppolo was ground into a pulp. And the 49ers couldn't move the ball anymore. They couldn't move the ball anymore.
No,
and that was a not great defense.
I'm not saying that
City.
The Chiefs were fraudulent champions or anything.
No one's arguing that.
The Chiefs were the better team. But I don't know. Smackdown, I feel like, is a touch harsh.
I think that there's something to be said for the physicality come the Super Bowl. That we've tried to make football such a dynamic, kind of beautiful game, basketball on grass. And ultimately, at some point, it does come down to who's winning in the trenches. And man, I don't like Green Bay in that situation. Green Bay is a front-running team, man. Green Bay needs to be ahead. 100%. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like having to scrap for anything. They can run the ball when you get the right numbers and stuff, but that defense is super susceptible. By the way, they're still covering 9.5 because Philadelphia is they're broken. Like Carson Wentz is broken. Think about the amount of times, like, okay, there's not just the bad throws and the underthrows. And by the way, a lot of underthrows and stuff when he didn't have pressure on him. Like he did get a clean protection. He still got sacked 6 times. I'm talking about stuff like he doesn't know which way Dallas Goedert is moving. Like how many throws did he make to where a dude wasn't moving in that direction? And either Goddard doesn't know the playbook, which I have a hard time believing, or Wentz is so spun that he forgets what the play is. And he was locked in on Goddard the entire game. He was missing wide open receivers on the outside. ESPN had to zoom in as to protect Carson Wentz's reputation in the NFL. Like it was, I haven't seen a dude lose his job in real time like that in a really long time, man. And I have to watch Jimmy Garoppolo on a week in, week out basis. Like I know bad quarterbacking. Carson Wentz is like next level crap. Don't bet on him.
Last thing. One last thing. I'm sorry. I know I'm
No, you don't need to apologize one bit. I love your
rambling here.
No,
to me,
that's what I do.
Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay are kind of like the LeBron Miami Heat. They, if you give them a lead and you blink,
you're screwed.
They might be up 4 scores.
Yeah,
like they're bullies and they can pour it on quick. So I think that your analogy is actually pretty spot on, Dieter. We talk about Rodgers' record as a home favorite, and he improved that record, on Sunday Night Football against the Bears. So you're making a lot of valid points that if they face adversity, I think this team could falter. But right now, it's a team that I don't want to be on the other side of.
By the way, I feel bad for the Philadelphia defense, which played pretty well, is really physical up front. Like I like their defensive line a lot. But their offense doesn't have the ability to do what needs to be done and just punch the bully in the mouth. Because if you punch the bully in the mouth, a lot of times, all those emotional issues sort of come to the forefront and they crumble.
I'm just like letting you guys go right now because I'm enjoying looking at all the wide receivers past Jordan Love that Green Bay could have had in this draft.
Oh my
Like,
God.
oh
You
my
wanna name
Lord.
some
Can you
names?
imagine? They have T. Higgins on their team, Michael Pittman on their team, Laviska Shenault on their team, KJ Hamler on their team, Chase Claypool on their team. Like, man, this is a really tough scene looking at like this wide receiver class. Like we have Harmon on my show every single week, and he's talked about it as being like legitimately might be one of the best wide receiver classes ever, like that we've ever seen. And they just straight waved it with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. I don't understand.
Well, and if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm breaking news here, they wanted Ayuk with that pick that they took Love with, but when Ayuk
was right before, right?
Yeah, but when that happened, they're like, fine, we'll take a quarterback.
Oh my
what
God.
are we doing? What are you doing? It was so crappy. By the way, I'm not a fan of Jalen Reagor on Philadelphia. I don't get it. I was never really that much of a fan of him. Doesn't pop on mock draftable the way I'd like him to. All right, Denver has Drew Lock back, we think. Patrick Mahomes still plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Therefore, the Chiefs are 2 touchdown favorites with the 50.5 point total in Kansas City. This is Sunday Night Football. Anyone want to take the Broncos? Bounce back for the Broncos?
No. Nope. I got a pretty fraudulent cover going against Patrick Mahomes last week with Tampa Bay. I will not be looking to make it 2 in a row.
Okay. That's that. We'll leave it at that. I don't have a line yet for Dallas and Baltimore. Does anyone see any numbers on Dallas and Baltimore Monday afternoon football?
You can't bet that without news. It's just such a debacle.
But we're off news.
True.
How will we find out?
I'm off of news on Sunday morning when Ian Rappaport tells me that certain players are going to get more run or less run. Like I'm complete. I might just fade that going forward. Like do the
exactly.
opposite.
Yeah. Well, you know what that is, right? Those are coaches texting him, basically trying to set up mind games with the opposing coach. I mean, it's a legitimate good play to fade that information because the entire premise of the information is that they're trying to screw up the other coach.
Well, a lot of times too, if you're thinking about it from a fantasy perspective, like you're not playing these guys off of injury or whatever it is for like their median projection. You're playing them for their ceiling and for lower ownership. If that's just going to help facilitate lower ownership, like with guys like Austin Eckler, like just be on the lower owned side of that, fade that type of noise.
Bring it, baby. All right. Pittsburgh and Washington, the football team, 44 point total, 10-point spread. I'll just take Washington in the 10 points in this. Pittsburgh, McCool's got the whole, emotional team thing going on. Weird spot. They're coming off of a Wednesday night game. Like, I don't know. I'll take the 10. Anyone else want to take the 10?
I mean, go ahead, LaMarca, but I have some thoughts here too.
I mean, again, I want to see this Pittsburgh-Baltimore game before I make any definitive calls on either of those teams.
Got to get in now.
I do like Washington. I think 10 points is probably a smidge high.
Right.
But at the same time, I do worry about Alex Smith against teams with a good pass rush. Like we've seen him become check down Charlie in that situation this year.
When has he not been check down Charlie, my friend?
He's been pushing the ball a little bit more.
Okay.
But this could be like one of those 12 target JD McKissick games.
Oh, baby. Talk more to me. Say less. Joe, what are your thoughts on this game? I can't believe that there's a lot going on, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of this Washington D-line. We talk about it every week. I think that one of the things that I guess is somewhat interesting here, I agree with you guys on McKissick, because like this Steelers run defense has been absolutely dominant so far this year. They've allowed just 5 touchdowns, just over 100 yards per game. So I don't know. I think that overall, like I wanted to take the points here with Washington just because of their defense, but like I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up. Like you said, I don't think that there's enough mobility left in Alex Smith at this point to truly get Terry McLaurin in at the rate that he's going to need to be involved to really just put up enough points against the Steelers team. The thing about the Steelers offense is they have weapons at every single level. So even if there's pressure coming on Ben, which I think there will be, there's still spots where they can just get the ball into Juju's hands. They can get the ball into Claypool's hand and get creative. And their defense is just going to basically just make Alex Smith's life a living hell on the other side. So 10 points, it's scary. But yeah, I think that's the side I still want to be on, unfortunately.
I kind of like the over in this one too, if it hangs out at 44, because even if I don't hit the 10, then I feel better about, Pittsburgh going completely off. Like, and I think that there's some garbage time points to be scored. You go up against a prevent defense for an entire third or fourth quarter. And if you just dump it to JD McKissick, you're going to be in field goal range plenty of times. So you got to feel better about that over maybe than the 10-point spread. But I'd be in on Washington and the over. Feel like I'm hedging my bet a little bit there. Buffalo and San Francisco. This game is going to be played in Arizona. The total on this one is 48. The Niners coming off a win against the Rams. Buffalo's defense showing me something this past week. I was waiting for them to come around, and they looked pretty damn good this past week. It's a 2.5-point spread, which I feel is somewhat disrespectful to Buffalo, all things considered. Like, the books know that Nick Mullins is still the quarterback of the 49ers, right? Like, they scored a defensive touchdown and barely won against the Rams. I'm in on Buffalo on this one, -2.5. How you feeling about it, Matt?
This is going to be an interesting one. I do agree that on the surface, when you look at this game, you're like, oh, Buffalo should be favored by more. But I don't know. San Fran might be getting their mojo back, baby. Yeah, baby. Give me that mojo. They got Mostert back doing Mostert things.
He's good.
You've got Richard Sherman back in the lineup, who has been out for most of the year. I have to dig into this one a little bit further. Shameless plug, I will have a Monday Night Football betting preview for all three of these games. Big Monday night slate.
Talk it up.
So I'll have a more definitive stance, after I dig in and do a little bit more research. But I could see myself talking myself into a contrarian 49ers play.
Well, here's the thing with the 49ers right now, and I'll try to keep it tight. Like, Deebo Samuel's back, and that's huge because he is the offense now. A lot of it's receiving yards, but a lot of those are those little shovel passes forward that go, 2 feet in the air, and he's running an end around. He's awesome. He's totally great. If Buffalo can just put a dude on Deebo, which is easier said than done because he runs through dudes, and I think he got like 85 of his 130 yards after contact against the Rams. But if you can stop Deebo, they can't move the ball. Like, they can't move the ball. And I'm going to give McDermott the benefit of the doubt here as a defensive minded coach, that they can come up with a game plan with an extra day of preparation to kind of slow down the only kind of smoke that the 49ers can really use, and to make Nick Mullins' life a living hell. And then on the flip side, the Niners have had real trouble with running quarterbacks. Like, we've seen it with Kyler Murray. We even see it technically with the Rams. They try to roll out Jared Goff every single play. Like, if you have a quarterback that breaks the pocket against a bad pass rush, and the 49ers have a bad pass rush, it could be curtains, even with Richard Sherman and Verrett, and they have some pretty good players, but man, they just don't do well against running quarterbacks. And I've heard that Josh Allen has some pretty good wheels. So we go to the resident Josh Allen truther for the final word here, Joe Holka.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think that there's a chance that he has some success on the ground in this one. We've seen, I guess, these ceiling games come in really good matchups for Josh Allen. I still think that it's a decent one. For sure. One thing on the other side, though, that I thought was at least interesting. So I'm with LaMarca. I want to dig into the 49ers side a little bit more. But if they can get things going with Mostert a little bit here, that's where you attack the Bills, right? This run defense is giving up the 4th most rushing yards per game in the league. They're definitely allowing a ton of touchdowns on the ground as well. So if we get this 49ers team that just wants to run, especially with Mostert, I think that he's talented enough to get a lot done on the ground. Interesting game overall. But I think that the 3 points for the 49ers for sure in play.
Yeah. All right. Maddie, you already hinted at some of the stuff you're writing. You want to get everything else out into the open now?
Yeah, same stuff as usual. I'll have my main slate betting preview up early on Thursday. And then the Monday night stuff, I'll also be here on Thursday night with Joe and Peter Overzet. Hopefully a more sober Peter Overzet. And you can bet that I will be rubbing his face in the fact that I beat him in our Thanksgiving head-to-head. He talked a lot of yang.
He talked something.
Joe, when are you going live with the Joe Holka Show?
Yeah, LaMarca covered a lot of stuff that we have going on throughout the week. I'm live Mondays, Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern time on my channel, 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings. It was our first show that we've gotten over 1,250 concurrent viewers, so that was really cool last week. So I guess people rolling right over from that show into the Line Movement show on Sunday mornings, Dieter, at 11 a.m. Eastern with, again, our boy Peter Overzet, hopefully sober Peter Overzet on a Sunday morning. It's been a good time, man. And then the Thursday night show will go through the slate from a DFS and a betting perspective when we have a little bit more information about some of this stuff.
All right, folks, get over to Line Movement. And if you are so inclined to get into the betting space, may we recommend, if you are north of the border, blitzbet.eu. It is our favorite site for betting if you are north of the border. And listen, these lines travel, and this data and this information that we've been throwing out for the last hour plus, it travels too. Blitzbet.eu, if you're in Canada, is the site you want to use. And listen, I found the lines very tantalizing over the last couple of weeks. So get on that, blitzbet.eu. We will see you in the next show, which is coming up real soon. I mean, hit that Line Movement channel, get that subscribe button, hit that bell, make sure that you don't miss anything. We're coming fast and furious week in and week out. It's the home stretch of the season, and we're here for you. Talk soon.